When the Pacific theater began to turn in the tide of the Americans, the Japanese sought new weapons to counter the much stronger American fleet. The new force that arrived were suicide tactics, plans that involved the death or suicide of the soldier, with the hope of doing damage to the enemy. But who would sign up for such a crazy idea? Japanese soldiers followed Bushido, an ancient warrior code used all the way through the war. Remember seppuku from 7th grade? The same ideals. Bushido condemned surrender and encouraged suicide as a means to possibly damage the enemy. In the eyes of the Japanese, these suicide pilots were simply casualties in an attack on American ships. A quote from the Japanese manual on kamikaze states, "When you eliminate all thoughts about life and death, you'll be able to totally disregard your earthly life." The most popular and used tactic was suicide planes, called kamikazes, or lightning wind in Japanese. These pilots drove their planes directly into American ships in the hope of inflicting damage. But why waste such resources? Before the war, Japanese planes had been mass-produced, but were inferior to the far more industrialized and powerful American Air Force. With many useless planes not being used, Japanese were able to produce massive amounts of kamikaze squads. These planes were laden with explosives to ensure more destruction, and sent out in groups from 20 to 100 at a time. In the whole war, almost 4,000 kamikaze pilots died, with about 20% effectiveness in hitting their targets. Kamikaze succeeded in sinking 57 American ships during the total war. The most powerful effect of the kamikaze, however, was the mortal effect on American soldiers. Kamikazes, due to their speed and numbers, were very difficult to shoot down. The next tactic commonly used was banzai charges. This idea was also rooted in Bushido, but on land instead of at sea. In a banzai charge, hundreds of Japanese soldiers would charge at the enemy, in the hopes of chaos and overwhelming numbers would stop the enemy. Typically, this was used as a last resort option, an alternative to surrender. As you could guess, it didn't work very well. The usage of automatic weapons by American forces could easily stop a charge. The largest banzai charge of the war was in the Battle of Saipan, in which 4,000 Japanese soldiers charged at Americans. They were only able to kill 67 Americans. However, the effective tear in close quarters was very effective against American forces on land. The final yet rare tactic was chitin torpedoes. Chitins were manned torpedoes that would be driven into enemy ships with more accuracy and skill than normal torpedoes. It was good in theory, but in reality they were very hard to control and poorly designed. Many pilots died in training, and only 150 chitins were reported to have launched. There were only 8 confirmed hits on American ships by chitins, and only 2 of those ships sunk. But, like the other 2 techniques, chitins were feared by Americans for their stealthy approach. Unfortunately, the specifics of these attacks are not well known. Most other documents pertaining to these operations and tactics were destroyed by the Japanese when the war began to end, and all participants in the program are, well, dead. Only through the eyes of the soldiers who survived do we know these brave, overly loyal, or possibly insane Japanese soldiers.